Time for another Friday history update. Today we're going to talk about Woodlawn Field. So as you can see behind me, Woodlawn Fields, which you now use for intramurals. You can see the School of Public Health over there, Collins Living Learning Center off to the side. This area hasn't always been this. It's been a number of things over the years, but what's really interesting, or a little tidbit of the history, is that after World War II, when we had a housing crisis, today we talk about housing crises, it's freshmen, it's move-in, we got freshmen living in lounges. We had a much bigger issue after World War II when the veterans returned, and we had veterans literally crammed into any space we could find across campus. In fact, even the president's boardroom was turned into a barracks with bunk beds in it so that students would have a place to live. One of the things that we had that was new to us was married housing. We had veterans who had spouses and children that were here, and what do we do with them? Well, one of the answers to that was that we would pick up trailers, military trailers that we could get as surplus from other places. And so we put them here on Woodlawn Field. We also put them up at the tailgate fields, and we put them where the Alumni Center is today. We even had them as far south as Templeton Elementary School. We had these trailer communities that popped up that were housed full of veterans, and we started off with just a few, but then that quickly ballooned, and we wound up with literally fields full of trailers. These communities were a little bit intentional. This gives you an idea of the scope. You can see the Arboretum in the back there where the stadium is. Gives you an idea of some of the scope of how many trailers there were. And these were families that lived in these trailers. So the trailers were not very big. You can see how the size of the trailers on the inside. One of the challenges was there were many kids, small children in particular, that weren't of school age, and so some of the trailers were converted into being daycare. And so you can see here some of the kids playing inside one of the converted trailers. The other interesting fact about the trailers is that they were our first residence hall association. The trailers formed their own communities. They elected their own officers. They had mayors. They had people that were in charge of their little areas, and they became some of the first residence hall government in a coalition with places like Collins, which then was the Men's Residence Center and located nearby. The veterans in these housing communities also drove a lot of the effort that went into our student association and forming a lot of our student groups that came from that. But this was our first foray into married housing right here on these fields, and we will actually be putting in a historical marker later this year commemorating that. Well, one's proposed. We'll see if it actually goes in, but it's proposed and it's been approved. It's got to go through the whole process, but hopefully it'll be out here soon. Well, that's your Friday history update, and we'll see you next week.